Good afternoon. Welcome to the merry month of May. And I wanted to introduce the theme for May and talk a little bit about the folklore, some of the inspiration behind it. Sorry this video is late. I was away at a fairy festival and it was a wonderful weekend. Great sales, great company, great people, great entertainment. I mean, I couldn't ask for more. But I've been unloading the car and I'm going to pick up the dog and I'm in casual get stuff done mode, so forgive me. The theme for May is going to be the horse. And I never rode. I was never did lessons or anything. I had friends who did, friends in high school that were pretty serious about jumping and showing and whatnot. But I'm looking at the horse more from a mythological and folklore standpoint. So not having any personal background connection to horses really doesn't matter. I'm looking down at my notes because, bringing in a little science, the horse, as we know it, evolved 50 million years ago, brought to the U.S. by European settlers in the 16th century. There are still some spots on the East Coast that have wild herds of horses. I mean, one of them related are the wild ponies of Assateague. And Assateague is a barrier island outside Virginia and Maryland on the Atlantic. And I might have to do a page for the Assateague ponies because they're beautiful and they're amazing, and you can go walk the beach and camp at the state park. And then there are ponies, and the park rangers will come around and say, "Yeah, put away all your food." There are lock boxes built underneath the picnic tables because the ponies are coming through. Of course, you leave them alone. Of course, they will bite and kick if provoked. But it's amazing to be in my camper van and have a wild Assateague pony 6 feet away having dinner munching on dune grass right outside my van. Um, so yeah. Also, as a child, there was a series of books, Misty of Chincoteague. Margaret Henry was the author, and although I didn't ride horses, those books were a great young adult series about that area and the ponies on Assateague and Chincoteague, and the annual pony swim where they're rounded up and auctioned off to go to good homes and to raise money for the upkeep and care of the rest of the herd. Anyway, I digress. Horses, symbolically, are seen to be very kind and gentle, but that's balanced with the fact that they can be very firm and focused. They often represent travel and freedom and moving forward and progression. And they're known to be very loyal. They have a great. They're very intelligent and they're very emotionally sensitive. They're animals that you can develop a very deep relationship with. If we look at Well, let's take it all the way back because I think of prehistory and the horses that you see in cave paintings. So that might be another spoiler on one of the themes that I work with. Um, there is actually a breed of horse, the Przewalski. I can't pronounce this. It's got Z's and P's and R's. Przewalski horse, which is a wild horse found in Mongolia, which is very similar. It's the only breed of wild horse left that's purely wild. But they're very similar in appearance to the horses found in the cave paintings, which is interesting. If we look at the Roman times, horses figure quite a bit in mythology. You'd have the chariot of the sun, driven by Helios, and then later by Apollo, and that was, of course, drawn by horses. You have the myth that talks about Poseidon, the god of the sea, who's inventing the horse, and you can imagine that visual. There's even some things on the Pinterest page. There's a famous painting by Walter Crane of the sea foam, the white cresting waves turning into horses and charging ahead. So there's that ocean horse link with Poseidon. There is, of course, Pegasus, but put a pin in that. We'll be back to Pegasus. As to water and horses, that connection goes across different cultures, whether it is the ceffyl in Wales or the kelpie or the water horse in Scottish, Irish, other kinds of Celtic folklore. There's a Pooka, which is a fairy horse, and it would trick people into getting on its back, and then it would ride away with them. It was said to breathe blue flames and have striking yellow eyes, yellow fiery eyes. And if we're talking mythology, we can't leave out Sleipnir, who was Odin's horse. He had 8 legs. Yeah, 8 legs. He could outrun any horse, and he could bear his rider to the land of the dead and back again. So definitely a magical creature there. Pegasus, born from the blood of Medusa, where her severed head dropped blood on the sand, rumored to be the son of Poseidon, since Medusa had been violated by Poseidon, and that was what set her on her way of transition, punishment, stony visage. Pegasus was said to have lived in the on Mount Helicon with the 9 muses, the muses of inspiration. He was tamed by Bellerophon. Tamed. He worked with Bellerophon to defeat the Chimera. Later on, he was tasked to go collect Zeus's stray thunderbolts as they fell to the earth. Can't have Greek myth and not mention centaurs, half horse, half man or woman, famed for their skill in healing as well as their skill in archery. If we bring it back to the kind of the Celtic lands, you have a couple different goddesses, Europe and the Celtic lands, a couple different goddesses that are associated with horses. First and foremost, you'd have Epona, who was from Gaul, so Europe, and then across into the Celtic lands. She's usually depicted as riding side saddle and carrying a basket of kind of harvest wheat and grain and fruits. So there's that sense of fertility and abundance. But she was also known to be a goddess of healing and of peace, as well as a goddess of death, and very much a favorite of soldiers who would, of course, be riding horses in not only in travel but in military excursions. Rhiannon is a Welsh goddess who is associated with the horse. Her myth is difficult and depressing, and she was one who persevered and overcame severe challenges. Go look her up if that is interesting to you. She specifically was associated with a white horse, which was an indicator that she was from the other world or the land of the Fae. Macha was a Celtic-Irish goddess, is a Celtic-Irish goddess who had to go through quite a terrible ordeal and run a foot race while pregnant. Because of a boastful husband boasted that she could outrun anyone. She won the race. She gave birth right there on the finish line and then cursed all the men of Ulster for 9 generations to suffer terrible birthing pains. Yeah, that's payback right there. That's good. Last 2 I want to mention are again from England. A lot of this is Celtic in this inspiration that I was gathering for this month. From folk history, you have Lady Godiva, who was said to have ridden naked through town on her horse. She was protesting taxes that her husband, the Lord of Coventry, had put into place, and said, well, if I do this, will you lower the taxes? That kind of thing. And he was like, yeah, right, you're going to do that. So she did. And in one folktale, in respect for the lady of their town, everyone stayed inside or averted their eyes so that she could fulfill this challenge and advocate for her townspeople, yet not be embarrassed or demeaned by riding naked through town, except for Tom. Tom peeped. Yeah, peeping Tom. Snuck a peek at Godiva while she rode through town. I kid you not. Lastly, probably one of my favorites is the Great White Horse of Uffington, which is a chalk figure cut into the hillside, reputed to date from 50 BC, which blows my mind. It's going to make it Celtic. It may have been a tribal emblem of the Atrebates tribe, but it's cut into the turf and then filled in with chalk. It's not naturally chalk underneath, it's filled in. And it is a National Trust property, and it is restored and kept up to date now. I don't have the measurements in front of me, but I know this is going to be one of my themes for one of my week art journal spreads. So I'll get a little more info on the Uffington White Horse and bring that with me when I come to the page to work on that. So this just this just skims the surface. I put a lot of things up on the Pinterest board. As always, I invite you to journal along with me if this theme sparks some ideas for you, and look for that first spread coming out this week. My schedule's a little bit off, so it might be Thursday, not Wednesday, just based on the things that I need to get accomplished and some things that are time sensitive. So, as always, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Weekly Spark, this monthly mythology and folklore edition. And I look forward to seeing you around and hearing your comments. Please feel free to subscribe, to thumbs up, to like the video, and come back for more art journaling content. Thanks. Bye-bye.